Okay.
3, 2, 1. What's up, you dingalings? Thank you for joining into the Yeah You Podcast episode. I am Hurakanak.
808 Warrior.
Makua Kane.
And it's just the three of us today. Live and direct. Yeah, so we're just going to get into it. Episode pidgin word / phrase of the day. We're going to hand it over to John. John's going to tell us what's up.
I was looking up pidgin phrases on Google, and this website popped up called liveyouraloha.com, and they come up with these 10 phrases that you should know. And kind of reading through them, I'm just scratching my head at some of them, but we'll go through them anyway. So the first one, it says, your kokua is appreciated. So I don't know what that means to you guys. On here it says, you may see this on local signs here and there. The Hawaiian slang phrase kokua simply means to help or assist. So your kokua is appreciated. That's a phrase. That's the first phrase they say you should know.
Okay, yeah, we're not going to go with that.
Yeah. No. The second one is, this bugger is pau.
Bugger.
This bugger.
That's some like plantation day
pau.
pigeon right there.
That's
bugger.
That's like a really like old.
Yeah.
Like,
That list is outdated.
And it says it's pretty much you say if your vehicle shits the bed. Pau. Pronounced pau generally translates to no more, all gone, or time's up. Term pauhana means after work and references the best happy hours on the islands. Term should not be confused with make, which means dead, i.e. a permanent form of pau.
Okay, let's go with that phrase. Because we'll use
Bugger
that
is pau.
phrase.
I feel like we should
Bugger
break
is
it
pau.
down.
No, yeah, we'll break it down, but then we'll give the new school pigeon, what's the word? Like phrasing of it. Because we don't really use bugger anymore unless you're like 70 years old and drive a fucking muscle car from up country, like one of those Portuguese uncles
The fucking
that
thing
you
is
see
just
on
like
Sundays.
Yeah.
fucking thing is on its last legs, just.
Kyle, you go first.
I wouldn't phrase it like that because that's pretty outdated. No one that I know would say bugger. It's always fucker
Yep.
or
And see
some
that.
other shit.
I think that has to do with the times.
Yep.
Because back in the day, nobody was swearing anywhere near that much. We wouldn't
Yeah.
swear
Yeah.
around our parents.
But nowadays,
Nowadays, it's like
swear
second
is
language.
like my first language.
Yeah.
Like if you look back at all the other podcasts, how many times they say fucking or fuck or this shit, you know what I mean? So I see slander or slur words, or not really slur words, but bad words. I don't really see it as a bad word anymore. Yeah, like how you're saying bugger nowadays would probably translate to fucker or ficky or you know. Is that all you have to say about that phrase?
Bugger.
Okay.
Pau.
How would you phrase it nowadays? Not saying bugger is Paul.
It has to be in context. So, like, are we talking about the context? Like, my car just.
Whatever you say.
I definitely would not say that shit. I would probably be like, bro, what the fuck? You know, like,
Yeah?
most of the pigeons phrases don't really use too often, like as in like the old ones. But yeah, like in my car shit out and it's just like, and I'm on the side of the road, I'd be like, this fucking cunt. That's what that would be my shit. But the bugger is pau. I mean, obviously, bugger is referring to something that's an object.
Yeah.
Pau is done. Like, you're done. You don't say pau like, like, I'm like, I'm pau with my food. Or, like, you know, you ask somebody, what you pau? You know?
If they're finished with something.
Yeah, that's when you're done. But, shit, I want to use that in context to my car.
John, how would you rephrase that, or what is your interpretation of that phrase?
Basically, it's almost not necessarily the same way. I say, yeah, this is all pau. I'm all pau. All pau.
But in the context of it being your car, would you say that?
Now, no.
No? Okay, go.
I know, I just got the rephrase. So the rephrase of this bugger is pau, how I would say it was, this fucker is dust.
Dust.
That's literally
That
the
is
word that came to my the
boom.
phrase came to my head.
In my
That was
head.
dust.
How I would rephrase that. Okay, like this is the situation. Okay, you're driving down the road, and your fucking car breaks down.
You hear that? What?
And you do pull over to the side. I would never say this bugger is Paul. Like if I'm talking to somebody else, saying, "Oh, bro, this bugger is Paul." No, I would not say that. I'd be like, "Fuck this car."
No, yeah, exactly. That's not the reaction that you would have if your car shit out in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm talking to somebody or if I'm like talking to myself because I'm fucking pissed off. I would never ever say bugger is Paul.
But
then again, could be a regional thing because I'm pretty sure whoever published that article had to be
from
on Oahu.
Yeah, it had to be from Oahu.
I mean, yeah, because that's like old. That's like really.
That's
old.
real old
Okay, but
kind of pidgin.
imagine yourself, right? You're
Yeah,
driving,
country.
but you're not driving. You're in the passenger seat. There's old like, local. I'm thinking like Okinawan, right? Just driving. He's super chill. He's just like driving. Oh, you're da 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 da. You pull over. He turns over to you, he's like, "This bugger is Paul." I can see that in my mind.
First of all, okay, what's wrong with your country? No, yeah, I wouldn't. No. This bugger is Paul. That phrase is Paul. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, seriously. So,
Okay, wait. Here's an interesting topic. I want you guys take on it. I saw this Andrew Schultz comedy. He did a stand up at the Blue Note. He said there is a difference between Hawaiian and being local. When you think about that, situation, what do you think of?
Okay, well, our local people is obviously like, the Filipinos, everyone who grew up here but's not of Hawaiian blood, I would think. Because if he's saying that Hawaiian is people who moved here and like Texan and like shit like California in or whatever the fuck. Those white people who move here, Howleys who move here.
Not necessarily white people.
Well, yeah, but anyone who's not of Hawaiian blood and moved to Hawaii should not be called Hawaiians because that's borderline racist on their part. You know what I mean? Or it's not racist.
No, I know what you're saying, but
it's disrespectful.
I think of it in a different way. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, for me, like locals are like, people from here. Like local would be like,
But not necessarily Hawaiian blood.
yes.
Okay. What about you, John?
Okay, so yeah, for me, Hawaiian, you gotta be on connect. Hawaiian's gotta be in your blood. You can't call yourself a Hawaiian. As far as being a local, born and raised here, local.
What about people who's moved here
here?
and been here for a long time? Would
The
you
right
consider
one.
them local?
They're residents.
Okay.
Now it's CK. Now this is where okay. I do get a little because you got people that moved here and they lived here 10, 20, 30, 40, 50
Plus
years. They
years.
have kids here now. Would I then consider them local?
No.
Yeah,
Their kids are local.
the kids are local. The mom and dad flew here.
So you're saying that if you're born here, you're local, but not necessarily have Hawaiian blood.
Yeah.
That
Well-
would make you local.
You have to grow up knowing how it's like living here.
If you're born and raised in that area, you're local.
Okay.
If you moved here, then you moved here.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I mean, I have good friends that, 20, 30 years here, but they don't call themselves local.
Okay. Here's my perspective.
Okay, go.
I've heard you guys, how you guys feel about it. Going through all the things that I've gone through in my childhood and more so in like high school, I've run into certain people that aren't necessarily Hawaiian blood, but they've done things like you would do in Hawaiian culture, and they've presented themselves as, having Aloha spirit and being a local. I wouldn't necessarily categorize them as local. I would categorize categorize them as Hawaiian because there's a lot of people that's not Hawaiian that are more Hawaiian than Hawaiians. So Hawaiian, I would say, like, okay, Kanaka Maoli. That's a totally different. Like you cannot be a Kanaka Maoli unless you have Hawaiian blood.
If we're going to go in that separate route, then yes, that's what I would
that's
say.
the only situation where I can see it to where you wouldn't be characterized as that. But if you're not of Hawaiian blood or ancestry, and maybe you've not even been born here, but you adopt the Hawaiian lifestyle. You live Aloha. You know, you can take Papa Olelo classes. I don't really care. If you care for Hawaii just as much as any other Hawaiian blood individual, I would categorize you as being Hawaiian.
I don't see that.
You don't see it that way?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Let's take our family for example. Yes. There's a lot of people that is not Hawaiian that has done so much for our family, for our aunties, uncles, grandparents, people who helped our family along the way. I would categorize them as being Hawaiian because they understand our values. They see it in themselves that, you know, they care as much about our family as we do.
Yeah.
So I would say that they are Hawaiian.
Well, then that's kind of like, you know, like they're a part of the family, which it would be that they are Hawaiian. But like, I'm sure that those people who are not Hawaiian would not, like, if they were to ask, like, oh, what is your ethnicities? They won't say Hawaiian.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said it.
You said nationality.
Yeah, I feel like the term Hawaiian creates a nationality, not really an ethnicity. Like, if you walk to somebody, or like if you're filling out a paper, and somebody asks you, oh, what nationality are you? You'd say Hawaiian. If you're talking ethnicity, would you say Kanaka Maoli, or you would say Hawaiian?
I'd say.
Well, yeah. We're
ethnicity-wise, I'd say Pacific Islander is another one because you're in the Pacific.
That's what's usually on the paper.
Yeah, or Polynesian.
Yeah.
Ethnicity, I would say Polynesian.
Mm-hmm.
Nationality, I would say Hawaiian.
I don't know.
It's two different ways to see it.
I can't, like, I understand where you're coming from.
No, I understand what you're saying because actually, I'm pretty sure you haven't been exposed to the situations that I've been exposed to.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the only difference. All three of us are pretty much on the like-minded when it comes to ethnicity, nationality, where you're from, you know, who's your people, kind of situations. But it's just that being exposed to certain situations and people, it kind of changes your outlook on what you perceive to be a nationality versus an ethnicity.
I feel like you are like, okay, so you brought up the whole family thing, but in my head, I'm still thinking like, you know, this like a haole guy who's been here for like 20 years, say, and he's like, yeah, I'm Hawaiian. I'll be like, no, you're not.
No, see, that's the thing too. They can't claim to be Hawaiian.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
I'm
you
saying
can have the title.
I would categorize, like, say, like, let's take our family friend that lives on Big Island that helps us with you know, all our family land on Big Island and stuff.
Yeah.
His name is full on Japanese. But we would categorize him as Hawaiian because he's done so much for our family in terms of taking care of the land and helping us, you know, to pursue our land and our rights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would categorize him as 100% Hawaiian, even though he has no Hawaiian blood in him.
Right.
Those
that's where us locals would be like, but wait, what's your blood? Like, what are you?
You know, okay, let me.
I have a lot of different.
But you know, Hawaiian or Kanaka Maoli is the only race that requires a blood quantum in order to categorize yourself as being Kanaka Maoli.
There to be a certain
They don't
percentage.
do it for Native Americans. Or
They don't
Native
do it for
Alaskans.
anybody. Hawaiians is the only one. Why is that?
Because we're endangered.
No,
No,
it's just they're keeping.
No.
It has
It's
to do with
because- it's yeah. Whew. All right,
Yeah,
here we go.
Bring us into.
I will
because that's
deep.
how hard it is to get on Hawaiian homeland.
Lay
It's
it down.
just like,
Yeah, but isn't
Me
Hawaiian homes,
me and
like,
John has talked about this for
5
years, especially when it comes to like Hawaiian Kingdom Government and Americans and all that stuff.
I'm ready for this.
But me and John obviously see it different. Well, not. I want to say see it differently, but we both understand each other. John, how did Hawaii become? Well, actually, it's funny we talk about this because today is statehood
Oh,
day.
it's statehood day.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
today's statehood. That's why
okay,
I'm off.
go ahead.
Okay, it's funny we talk about this.
Okay.
Okay, so how did Hawaii become a state?
Hawaii became a state. The overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy when the United States Navy, backed by Alexander Baldwin, Dole,
Right.
and other plantation owners, marched up on Iolani Palace, and they put the queen in her bedroom, basically locked her. And that's why we've been apologized to twice, but that's as far as that went. But as to my knowledge, we became a state through that. They basically held an election, which the Kanaka had no vote, even though they said they did. I don't believe the Kanakas voted, and in turn they were annexed, become a state, and then eventually became the 5th.
Okay, do you know how a territory becomes a state through annexation?
I'm just going off of my common sense.
No, this is totally opinionated. It's not based on fact. It's what we know, what we can tell you.
I would think
Yeah.
that the leader of
Wait, let me repeat that. This is
territory-
not fact. This is totally our
It's,
opinion.
it's totally opinionated.
Yes.
And mind you, we're just 3 fucking
We
Hawaiians
have
just
not
talking shit.
researched this. We have not been to a university and researched anything. I haven't asked anybody.
I'm a high school guy.
Yes, but this is
I
our
barely made it out of high
opinion.
school.
This is our interpretation of the situation that we have right now. Okay.
Well, okay, so I would think that the leader of the territory would have to, because you said, how does a territory become a state, right?
How does a territory become a state through the process of annexation?
I would think that the leader of the territory would have to
Seed.
Yeah, they would have to basically give them permission.
Give
Like,
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like okay, we can't win this. Obviously, you know, when you're a leader of so many people, you think of the people rather than your own ego. So you'd be like, you know what, we can't win this. We'll join you. You know what I mean?
Who you're referring to as being the leader?
Well, if like obviously there has to be a leader of the territory, like someone who is opposed their leader, like, you know, king, queen, chiefess. Like it has to be someone who, I wouldn't say rules the territory, but someone who oversees the territory. You know,
Okay.
there's always gonna be a dictator or some kind of president, someone that everyone says, yes, this person is our leader. I want, like, you know, they're gonna make the decisions for us.
Okay. Do you know the process of statehood through annexation?
Process itself?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
But I would have, if I could take a guess, I want to say it depends on the vote of the people. Because just thinking of our process, I mean, our monarchs, she had people around her help her with decision making.
Right.
But then, of course, the overthrow came in, signed away, because she didn't want Hawaiians to be, knew that basically we weren't going to win this fight if we.
Yeah.
Which I actually honestly do believe in, but it would have been a righteous fight. It would have been a righteous fight. It wouldn't have been a wrong fight. Don't get me wrong.
Especially the fucking powerhouse that the U.S. was at that time. We would have never fucking won.
Okay.
If we did decide to fight them, we would have never fucking won.
In 1839, the United States wasn't that big of a military power by then, at that time. But they had a military. They had one of the biggest navies at the time. But they weren't the top navy at the time.
It wasn't even World War II yet.
Yeah. But okay. If any, this is just my opinion. I want to say that again. Okay, so through the process of annexation, in order for a territory, it has to be a territory. It cannot be its own country or state. And legally, a state, when talking about legal documents, state means country, not state, as we know states today.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Okay, so because Hawaii was its own country and its own state, there has to be a treaty prior to the annexation or taking over that specific state. So let's look at the Louisiana Purchase, for example. Do you guys know the Louisiana Purchase?
Yes.
How Napoleon ceded the entire Louisiana line straight into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
In order for the United States to take over that territory, they had to pay Napoleon money for those states. So, did the United States pay the Hawaiian Kingdom Government at that time to take over Hawaii?
Not to my knowledge.
There isn't. I can tell you for a fact. This is a fact. There is no treaty. No buying process of said state.
Yeah.
So are we going into the whole Hawaii was obtained illegally?
Illegal occupation.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it was. I mean, that's what it is.
But okay. Today, John,
Yes.
would you call yourself an American?
No.
Would you call yourself an American?
I don't like the fucking term, but obviously we are.
Okay, why do you say we are?
Well, we have the fucking government, man. Like, the government has all our fucking paperwork. We have Social Security that's connected to the U.S. government. Everything that we fucking do, taxes, everything.
You know,
goes to the
Native
government.
Americans have Social Security as well.
Don't they have their own? They have their own card.
They
don't
own, but they do have their own, but they also have Social Security with American government.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard. I don't like if people were to ask me like, oh, what the fuck, like, you know, what's your nationality? It's not fucking American.
Okay. We all can agree that Hawaii is in its own fucking dilemma, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
We were our own seat. We had a seat amongst the United Nations. We were properly educated through the United Kingdoms.
Yeah.
You know, we were no dummies, but at the same time, our queen just knew that wasn't a fight that we could win.
yeah.
They didn't want us
Yeah.
to.
Well,
And
'cause
she
we were
wanted
small.
us. To me, and just what I've learned through my family and whatnot, they wanted us to win through the education process. Beat them.
okay. The Queen's letter to the president. She did not give up
Nope.
the Hawaiian Kingdom. Or she did not give up the Hawaiian people, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
She did not give up the country. She gave up the government. But people need to learn that there's a difference between giving up a government and giving up your country.
Right.
There's two separate things. Because you can overthrow a government, but you can't overthrow a country.
Right.
The only way you can take over a country is through war, which basically what happened, or, you know, the Louisiana Purchase. You purchase that country and it becomes integrated into your state. But not many people know that up until now, because there's a lot of, I'd say not now, I'd say in the past 10 years, there's been, well, for the past, since before I was born, there's been a Hawaiian Renaissance. But up until the most recent years, people have found out information about such things that we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
But here's another thing about it being American or United States of America doing it versus another country.
No, yeah, and that's what I was gonna point out. Is that I think that's where we're going. In a way, I'm kind of happy that we are part of, like, or that, you know, it basically comes down. It would have been United States or what was it, Germany or the UK?
We would never know.
Yeah, we would never know. But if it wasn't the US, it would have been someone else.
Say Japan.
Yeah.
If I mean, it was bound to happen eventually. We're a small territory region, so like someone will eventually would have taken over.
So you're saying it's in a good situation that it was the United States that was being taken over or took us over instead of somebody else.
Possibly. I mean, out of all the other countries, I would rather it be the U.S. than, because we were before the whole Nazi thing going on, right?
Yep.
So if we got taken by Germany and we were a part of that, we would have got fucked. We would have been the first. I mean, that's why Japan, Pearl Harbor. We would have been the first place to get nuked.
Why do you think Japan bombed Pearl Harbor?
I want to get into this.
Let me be more specific. Why do you think Japan bombed Pearl Harbor specifically and not anywhere else?
Well, obviously that's because of the U.S. The U.S. had their own navy. They had their navy station.
Well, that's Pearl Harbor is the biggest military installation.
That's
out
why
of any other country or anything.
Right, and everybody at the time, strategically, if you're thinking about war, Hawaii is the perfect place because it's smack dab in the middle of the Pacific. You can reach anywhere, and it's like a pit stop, because back then planes and boats they didn't have the capacity to fly overseas.
Do you know the knowledge of the history between Hawaii and Japan?
Well, I know that we have a really good history with them.
Yeah,
prior to Pearl Harbor.
But way back before that.
Yeah, Japan and Hawaii, they were like really tight. I mean, obviously Hawaii was close to the UK too.
Yeah.
That's why we have the damn British Jack in our flag.
So when you talk about Pearl Harbor, does anyone say, oh yeah, Japan bombed Hawaii? Or would they say Japan bombed Pearl Harbor?
Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
Only because
it was
United
the U.S.
States.
Navy.
Yeah. Japan, I can say this with confidence. The Japan had we not been occupied by the Americans, we'd probably be a territory of Japan. And I can honestly say with confidence that things would have been better. That's just my opinion. That's not a fact because nobody can tell, nobody can.
We never know.
Yeah, nobody can assume the future or what would happen. But I can honestly say with confidence that because of the history between Japan and Hawaii, we probably would have been better off.
Well, there is that thing that, all the royals, Kalakaua and everybody else, like even before him, they had really tight ties to the UK.
Yeah. Not just the UK.
With the United Nations.
A lot of European countries as well. And with Germany. So, who's to say Hawaii wouldn't have
just stood on its own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Hawaii, let's just say the monarchy,
right,
dispatched a lot of Hawaiians out into the world just to get recognition for Hawaii being its own kingdom. Yep. And one of those countries was the United States that recognized Hawaii as its own country. That's why at any United Nations building, there is still a Hawaiian flag.
Which is why this past year it made some headlines when the Hawaii surfing competitors wanted to fly the Hawaiian flag instead of the American flag, but they told them no. And unfortunately, when you play those games, you got to play by their rules.
Yep.
No, I can't hate. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I have dreams still of racing. A 2% chance that it'll come true. If it got onto the actual world stage, unfortunately, they wouldn't let me fly the Hawaiian flag.
Yeah. I wouldn't care. I would do it.
Oh well, see that's it. Yeah. No. That's
I don't care if I would get fined or jailed.
No,
I would do it.
No. It wouldn't be that. It would just be like for me and for my situation. Like if I just say I could get into racing, get these sponsors, have a chance to live my dream. But the one thing is they have to I'm an American racing on international soil, so they wouldn't. I mean, they would call me the Hawaiian whatever, but technically by
you can't
the paperwork we signed, the visas and everything that we'd run by, unless I had like a, I'm still looking into this. We can talk about this afterwards, but my visa would technically be American. What do you think about now about all these different Hawaiian entities? Like you had that group that fucking took over Iolani Palace for a couple hours.
Well, here's the reason why Hawaii will never become its country again. Because a lot of people have their own vision of what that should be. They have like the Royal Hawaiian Court, and they have like Kauinoa. Kauinoa is still the thing. They have those guys that's on Oahu. They basically have their own country wherever they live. They have their own. They have their own driver's license. They have their own IDs. They have their own schools. You know, basically all that stuff. But because it won't be its own thing again, because everybody, they're not on the same page. That's the sad part about it.
That's how I feel about it too. Like,
No,
I would love us to be our own entity, but it'll never happen because none of us can get on the same page.
yeah, nobody. Because the way, okay, let's take Kamehameha for instance. For instance, he did something that nobody ever done prior to that point, was unify everybody under one banner. That in itself was an impossible feat because each island has its own identity.
And had many chiefs on one island.
Not just one chief on one island. It
Many
was
chiefs.
parts of an island. Each Ahupua'a pretty much had their own
Oh yeah.
chief and royalty. But if somebody was to do that, I don't think it would be in our lifetime. I
Like,
can guarantee it.
yeah. To me too, like, I know a lot of some groups is going off of, oh, it's my blood.
Yeah.
So many of us that can say that now.
And that's I don't want to say it's stupid, but that's a stupid argument.
That's one of the things. Like, oh, like I did not like honestly I didn't like it when that guy sat on the throne.
Yeah, if you go back,
That made me mad.
if you go back far enough, everybody's fucking related if you have Hawaiian blood.
Yeah.
And everybody can have a claim to being,
Of
of royal blood. Yeah. That's why it's so important to have not necessarily your blood, fucking how much percent Hawaiian you are.
We did away with that after Kamehameha V.
Yeah. But it's your
And the people
genealogy
hold it.
is what plays a big part. If you can date back your history to, that time, our family alone, we can date our genealogy before Kamehameha was even born.
A lot of people don't
No.
keep track of their genealogy.
Which is sad too,
My Ohana has.
because I thought it was a common thing amongst native Hawaiians,
My Ohana has, yeah.
but it's not. It's not really a common thing.
I'm very proud to know that he knows where my ancestry came, like what our line is. Super proud of it. Don't want to get too much into detail about it, but
And it's a good thing.
I'm not.
Nobody should get into their genealogy. Nobody should state names. Nobody
Right.
should say what time period. In all honesty,
It was never needed.
well, okay. Hawaiian protocol dictates that whenever you enter a domain or someplace that's not of your own kin or of your own, family, ohana, you state where you're from and your family, and it just to gain access or entrance into that specific area. But it should never be put online, or it should never be said to anybody, or even like this, a podcast. You shouldn't have to say your family, or you should never state names.
I was very careful when I said, I was like,
Yeah,
just got to know my ancestry.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of that.
Right.
because when you start doing that, then that
You need to drop names.
yeah,
Yeah, you like
and
drop
then
names.
shit starts going to shit. If I'm totally being honest with myself, I would say I would categorize myself as being both. Being, a Hawaiian and an American, because a lot of my family members have served in the military. And I would be disgracing them and, not really doing justice to them if they're the ones that took, especially my papa. My papa was in the military. That is the only reason why I celebrate the 4th of July. Had it not been for that, I would not celebrate that holiday. I still try not to, but it's just because military is so prevalent in our family, and I have cousins, uncles, aunties. You know, they've all been in the military, served in the military, are currently still serving in the military, and it's done, you know, good things for them. So I wouldn't disgrace them on that point, and would still categorize myself as an American only because of that.
But that brings the thing that we're talking about like people who, well, there's a difference between people who are given the title Hawaiian by, like, you know, actual Hawaiian people, because it's like, you know, we acknowledge that like, you know, like, you mean good.
Yeah.
So, but like, there are people out there who claim themselves as Hawaiian without anything to back it up other than this is where their house is.
There are very rare instances where that's the case.
Yeah.
Very rare.
When you see that, like, you know, it pisses you off. Well, I don't know about you guys, but it pisses me off.
It doesn't piss me off as so much as if they believe it. In terms of it being a personal gain, that's when it starts pissing me off.
Right.
Where you need to claim yourself to be Hawaiian in order for you to advance whatever. Like, if, say, you want your kids to go to Kamehameha, or if you want to get ahead in life, and you're using that as to forward your whatever endeavors, that's when it starts pissing me off.
You know, when I was working in retail, there's always fucking white people who come up. And, you know, as the person who rings people up, you're like, oh, you know, you see a local person, you shoot them the Kama'aina discount. But when a fucking white person comes up to you and like, oh, can I have the... And they can't even fucking say it right. They say, like, can I have the...
Yeah, that's a clear indication that they're not from here.
They're like, can I have the Kama'aina discount? And I'm like, dude.
That's when they asked him, can I see your ID?
Yeah, I asked him, like, can I see your ID? They have a fucking Colorado ID. And I'm
I
like,
never
dude,
got around to change it. Well, so
Yeah.
how long have you been here?
He's
I just moved here a couple months
I have
ago.
a house here.
Well, technically, if you go to any state, you have to be at least a 2-year resident in order to be local of that state.
You know, no, there is some, like, I've had people come up to me at the stuff and like, oh, they show me their resident, like, or their state of Hawaii card. I'm like, oh, unfortunately for me, wherever they come in a restaurant, there's no discounts.
There's no discounts.
Nah,
Oh, that's nice.
I got into a legit argument with this guy because he says that, oh yeah, I'm here 6 months out of the year. And I'm like,
So?
that doesn't fucking prove anything, bro.
That must be nice. Wish I could live in 2 places.
Yeah. Get your entitled
I wish I
ass
could
out of here.
afford to live in Hawaii for 6 months and go back to wherever.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this. How's he doing that with COVID now? Riddle me that, motherfucker. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, there's, bro, you run into some characters that come in. I'm a local. And what?
You're a local of where?
I just look at them and like, and what? You think you saying you and locals gonna make a fucking difference to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I treat everybody accordingly.
Yeah, if you're an ass, you get treated like an ass. If
Yeah.
you're a dickhead, you get treated like
I'm
a
gonna be nice
dickhead.
to you one time. That's it.
That's why I always say I'm not racist. I hate everybody equally.
I treat everybody accordingly. That's my phrase.
I don't treat you any different than the other idiot that came in previously before you.
Okay. Let's talk state of the war zone.
All right.
Because there is some shit that I would like to say and take back about Warzone.
Oh, whoa, taking back.
I know it's very rare that I say that.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
I want to hear this.
I might have to be streaming some Warzone again because
do it.
that well, that's it. The event was kind of shitty, but it was all right for what it was. It's better than the zombie one that we had before the fucking Cold War integration.
Right.
It was fun, and then I played a couple games after that. And didn't run into any hackers. That's not to say that they're not out there, but the couple games I played, it was still enjoyable. I lost legitly. I got killed legitly, and yeah. So you might be seeing some Warzone streams for me.
By all the news out there's people getting literally live banned, and they're showing their names. They're telling them so and so's been booted. Instead of saying, because I guess previously it was just saying that they're disconnected. Now it's saying so and so's been booted.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they show you the name to give you a clear indication of who's been kicked out.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like a YouTube short or like a TikTok or Instagram reel or something.
It
But
might have been it might have been another big streamer.
there was a guy that he just started his stream. He loaded up his BattleNet, tried to log in, and said your account's been banned. So that's a good indication of where it's heading.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's like the guy that I was talking about. I think it was the last podcast where he there was a guy. I mean, obviously he was a hacker. He admitted it on TikTok. And as he was going, he was like, "Yeah, bro." He's like, "My account's been banned on this one." He had 5 different accounts that all had hacks. 3 of them in which he didn't even touch yet. He didn't even touch those accounts. And every single one of them that he tried, they all got banned.
Banned notifications.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
he
that's
was a
thing.
good hacker because he admitted, like, he didn't only admit, but he's like, "I'm actually really proud of Activision for doing this. Like, this is amazing."
Now
Like,
I gotta
they're
buy a
actually doing
new
shit.
fucking PC in order to play the game. Which is good because if they're tossing out hardware bans, and the rumor is that they're not only doing hardware bans but IP bans as
Yeah,
well.
the
So
IP bans.
I mean, if that guy ever gets a new fucking PC, he's gonna have to get new internet as well.
Yep. That's good. That's definitely good. Finally
Yeah,
getting it done.
so I'm excited.
It kind of, I don't know.
Excited for Warzone. And on another part, I am looking forward to Vanguard as a multiplayer thing, but
You're not.
I won't be playing it as much because Halo and all the other stuff is coming out, which
We'll see
I'm
how that
super
rolls.
excited for.
I think that was Activision's like last little push to try and.
You know what? I
them
think that got
into
them
the
to that
game.
point was the lawsuit.
You think so?
I think so because they're under so much heat litigation wise. You know, they need a win.
Yeah.
So they did something for the fans. Finally, they did something for the community, and it's just been a long time coming before they fucking brought that shit out. But I'm not saying I'm moving back exclusively to Warzone because in my previous streams, that's all I streamed was Warzone. But I'm still
might
on the
make a-
Valorant grind and just sprinkle in some Warzone here and there. Well, anyways, that's going to end it for us on the Yeah You podcast. We had State of the Warzone, had some genealogy talk. And, oh, wait, Austin.
The pigeon
The
phrase.
pigeon phrase of the day was Bugga is pow. How would you rephrase that? Bugga is pow. How would, well, the terminology in that phrase is kind of outdated, so how would you rephrase that?
Just like this podcast is about to end.
Yeah.
Or like it's finished. Like you're cooking dinner. You're gonna tell your family about your child. I was raised in mostly in the mainland.
Anyways, that's it for the Yeah You podcast, episode 4. I am Huda Kanak.
I'm an 808 warrior.
I lost Hawaiian.
I'm cool, Connor.
And catch you guys in the next one. Shoots.
Yes.